So try to answer them fairly concisely, Steve. It says, Dr. Meyer, how would you combat somebody who believes in the multiverse, an infinite number of universes, so that life had to happen eventually?
Lots of physicists will now say, you know, you've got a choice in how to interpret the fine-tuning evidence. You can either say it's the result of some kind of supermind, a theistic design interpretation, or you can opt for the multiverse. It's kind of a wash. The multiverse is the idea that there are billions of other universes out there, such that the incredible improbability associated with the fine-tuning of the laws and constants of physics and initial conditions of the universe that improbability gets massively diminished because there are so many universes that the right conditions had to arise somewhere. The problem with this explanation, there's multiple problems, but the biggest one is this, that you can't just posit other universes, because if all the other universes are separate from ours, having no causal interaction, then things that happen in those other universes don't affect anything that happens in our universe, including the probabilities of the fine-tuning. So proponents of the sort of naturalistic approach to explaining the fine-tuning realize that, and realize that to explain the origin of the fine-tuning, they needed a universe-generating mechanism, something that would allow them to portray our universe as the outcome of a kind of cosmic lottery in which the universe-generating mechanisms were spitting out lots of different universes, and would then ours just happen to be the lucky one, and that's where the rub comes in, because both of the speculative cosmologies that have been used to posit or to explain the multiverse, or to generate multiple universes, inflationary cosmology and string theory, require universe-generating mechanisms that themselves require prior unexplained fine-tuning. So in the inflationary universe, for example, the inflaton field has to shut off with just the right energies in just the right narrow window of time. And there's an incredibly precise fine-tuning associated with that. So in order to explain fine-tuning, you posit a multiverse, but for the multiverse to actually explain fine-tuning, you need a universe-generating mechanism, but the universe-generating mechanisms require prior unexplained fine-tuning. So the multiverse doesn't really get rid of the fine-tuning, it just pushes it back one generation.
Good. I remember you and I were at a meeting one time together, and a Nobel laureate was pushed a little bit on giving an explanation for this, and he said, well, we're here, so it must have happened.
Yes, yeah.
And that was as good as he could get. And I remember you and I looked over at each other like, boy, we wish he had some more substance than that.
You get the same thing with the origin of life problem. Is since we're here, it must have evolved by chemical evolution, but we don't have a model and we don't have a plausible reaction, but since we're here, it must have happened. But what's assumed in that is that it must have happened materialistically. And there's obviously another alternative explanation. It may have been designed. Right. Same thing with the fine-tuning of the universe. There's another reason for that, and that I explore in my book in some detail. Because I take this multiverse hypothesis, I take it very seriously, take it on as an alternative explanation. But it turns out that in order for you to have a plausible multiverse hypothesis, you have to have some mechanism for generating all the other universes. If these other universes were just out there and they had no connection to us at all, then they wouldn't affect the probabilities in our universe. In order to portray them as the outcome of a giant lottery, there must be some kind of common cause, some universe-generating mechanism that's responsible for all the different universes, all the proliferation of the same.
Now you're hurting my head, so you got to stop.
Okay, I'm almost to the payoff.
Okay. All right.
Okay, and everyone will get this.
Okay.
Turns out that the universe-generating mechanisms themselves have to be finely tuned to produce new universes.
Oh.
So in order to explain the fine-tuning, you have to invoke a mechanism that requires still prior fine-tuning.
That is hilarious.
And that's why it is a not really great
That is absolutely
theory.
hilarious.
Does the new scientific idea of many universes, a multiverse, destroy the power of the fine-tuning argument?
I would say definitely not. Even though it's a very interesting idea, the multiverse hypothesis, if you actually look at the currently most fashionable versions of it, it looks like the multiverse generator itself would need to be well designed to produce a single life-sustaining universe. Hence, that hypothesis just kicks the problem of design up one level. Let me give you some examples of how this works. If you look at the inflationary superstring version of the multiverse hypothesis, there has to be a mechanism to generate the bubble universes. There has to be a mechanism, which is given by inflationary cosmology. There has to be a mechanism that gives those bubble universes mass energy. There has to be a mechanism to vary the constants of nature in those multiple universes.
So all of those things have to be achieved in order to have the life that we have
A
now.
single life-sustaining universe. Further, it doesn't explain, even though you can get a variation of constants from physical constants, or just like things like the force strengths or the cosmological constants, which are fundamental numbers in physics. Even though you can get a variation from universe to universe, it does not explain what I call the fine-tuning of the laws. That is, you have to have just the right laws in order for there to be life, such as the law of gravity. That's already built into the inflationary superstring scenario and doesn't vary from universe to universe.
The difference being the universe generator in the multi-universes, in your theistic explanation, has to be, each one of the elements of the generating parameters have to be fine-tuned themselves.
Right, but you can't say they're fine-tuned by 1 part in a trillion or anything like that. It just has to have the right components. So that's where the quantitative element disappears.
But that quantitative difference seems to be a very significant one.
It has some significance, but I don't see it myself as being of huge significance. You still have a design problem. Just like we had a design problem before Darwin about the human body. We could say we didn't have its fine-tuned, the heart within 1 part in a billion, and yet when we looked at it, it looked like it had to have all the right components to function, and that presented a problem for the atheist. And then, of course, along came Darwin's theory of evolution that gave an alternative to some sort of intelligent design in explaining the human body.
And if you were an atheist, would you think the multiverse, many universe argument is the right cosmology?
If I were an atheist, I would not advocate many universes as a way of explaining the fine-tuning. The reason is the universe generator version of the multiverse hypothesis simply transfers the problem of design up 1 level to who or what designed the mini-universe generator. Max Tegmark's version, in which every possible mathematical structure exists or every possible world exists, runs into a problem of explaining the elegance and beauty of the laws of nature.